Welcome back to another episode of
Super Smash Bros.
So today I thought it would be a good idea to do a little bit of a multi-movie review of the week type of thing. Both big movie buffs, so constantly watching movies, especially now, that we're quarantined to the house. So that's all we've done nonstop is watch movie after movie every night. So I thought it'd be a neat little idea to compile 5 movies every week, like a little watch list. So like today we'll review 5 movies we've seen in the last week, and then next week we'll have another list that we'll go over, and it's just 5 movies that we'll have posted in the description below, so you can check out with us. So next week you can watch along with us and see if you agree with our reviews.
We'll also put where we found the movie so that you can go and look for it yourself, whether it be Netflix or Amazon Prime or Shudder,
Hulu.
So that way you can look it up for yourself.
So this week, of course, we'll just kind of do a review for y'all, and you might have seen it, you might not have. We both really like really obscure movies for the most part, so tend to shy away from the more mainstream films that have came out recently, and big horror films buffs, so a lot of these movies are going to be horror films.
Oh yeah.
So I think exactly. So I think we should jump right into it, to probably my personal favorite one we've watched in the last week or so, a little movie called Swallow, starring Haley Bennett. This one's a brand new release. I think it just came out like last month. But I'll let you start off by...
Okay. This is actually my favorite movie from the week also. And I will say that this movie was not at all what I expected it to be. When I read reviews, I usually, or like upcoming things about movies, I try not to read too much into it because I like to be surprised by things. So, of course, the premise is about a woman who swallows objects like you should not swallow, like thumbtacks and
needles,
yes,
push pins,
a lot of that kind of thing. And so when I read it, I just read the synopsis of it. I really was expecting like a body horror type movie.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking it's going to be more of a gross out shock film where it's like she keeps eating all this stuff, and I didn't think it was going to be that realistic. It was just meant to make us feel uncomfortable and gross. I was expecting something more like a Cronenberg, like the Rabid, or the Rabid redo that they done here just a while back. And so I will say that the movie really surprised me because this will all be spoiler free because I hate that kind of thing and everything. I hate spoilers. But I will say the movie is not a body horror type movie. It's more about a woman who's out of control of her life, and she does some weird things to feel in control. And it is a beautiful movie. I really enjoyed it. I was once again, I expected one thing, and I actually got better than what I expected. So I really enjoyed this movie. It was well shot. You really feel for this character as she evolves in the movie. And even though it has a weird premise, like it really follows through, and it has a whole lot of punch when it comes to that feeling that you can kind of relate to this character. Even though she's doing something weird, we all do weird things when we're really stressed or we feel out of control, and that's what this movie's about. So, yeah, I went in thinking it was going to be a straight-up horror film, gross, gory, but on the actual side, and this isn't really a spoiler, it's actually not that graphic. So if you're a person who likes horror films but doesn't like a lot of violence or gratuitous blood and everything, there's actually not a lot of that. Again, it actually surprised me in that it focused more on an actual story.
than just relying on all the blood and gore. And it was a very beautiful film. Like the story, the character, her backstory. It was almost kind of like a coming of age type scenario where this woman really comes into herself through this very strange and horrific obsession she has. It is actual real mental illness that people have. Like they eat weird things and they don't know why, they can't stop themselves. So it's actually a very realistic, grounded, very beautiful look at something so tragic and disturbing. So I was very pleasantly surprised at this one. I loved it.
I did too. And watch the credits, because the song at the end of the credits, it's, I believe, called Anthem, is really cool. I actually downloaded it off of iTunes after that.
Yeah. Alana York, I think is who sung it, and I listen to it about every day. But if you do want to check this one out, this one, like I said, is a newer, so I think it's available for rent on Prime for like $5. So, I mean, you get your money's worth. You definitely do. And definitely highly recommend it. It was definitely my favorite. So moving on to the next film on this list. This one's a little bit more of a satire, dark comedy. Come to Daddy, starring Elijah Wood. This one was a weird one. It really, the premise, it's just about this guy. He gets a letter from his estranged dad and wants him to come out to his beach house so he can finally get to know him. And one thing leads to another. And by the end of the movie, I did not expect I didn't know what I was expecting going into it, but the way it went was far beyond anything I had in mind. But yeah, this one was weird, funny, dark, disturbing in some parts, but also it was a nice little story about, the bond between a son and a dad. So I actually really enjoyed this one. I mean, it's not the best. It had a few parts that were kind of like, eh. But overall, it was a pretty weird indie film.
Yeah, I think it's made by the same guy who done The Greasy Stranger.
Mm-hmm. Greasy Strangler.
Strangler, sorry.
So if you never heard of that one's a trip too.
Yeah, so seeing that one, I kind of knew I might be in for a wild ride with this one. So I wasn't too surprised that it was weird and everything like that. There's a few parts where you're like, you're not going to do that. But other than that, I actually really enjoyed it. It was well shot, well paced, and you won't really probably expect the ending.
You won't guess at what does happen. It's not a twist ending. I mean, there's no twist ending, but the way it's kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn. That halfway point through the movie, it shifts completely different genres.
Yeah, this goes off the rails.
This one doesn't take a gradual. It literally goes up, 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 and then just nosedives into a freaking loop. So it was a roller coaster, and it was enjoyable. It didn't take itself too seriously, which is always a nice time for a film. This one is a little bit more on the gorier side of things. So if you are a gore hound, which I love some gore, I love some good old-fashioned practical effects, which this film has plenty of. So you'll definitely love it if you love blood, violence, and Elijah Wood. So covered in blood.
Who doesn't love Elijah Wood?
He's all right. I like Elijah Wood.
He was Frodo.
Old Frodo. I was more of a Samwise person, but to each their own.
And what is this one available
on? This one is available. Again, this is a newer one. It just came out, I think, back in February too. So it's available for rent for $4. I think this one was on Amazon Prime and iTunes. So again, if you just want a lighthearted movie, I recommend this one.
I don't think I would consider this a lighthearted movie, but it is a dark comedy.
Yeah, lighter tone movie. But shifting from lighter tone to absolutely dark tone, the next one is The Blackcoats Daughter. This one I didn't know too much about, actually. I've heard reviews from it on Reddit and stuff, and everyone keeps saying, "Oh, I just watched the Blackcoats Daughter and this and that." I saw it like out there a lot, but I always just skipped over it because I was like, it doesn't really catch my interest. But in quarantine, nothing to do. Finally sat down to watch it, and was very surprised how disturbing and how long this movie actually stuck with me after I finished it. So it's these two girls, they're trapped in this not trapped, but they're stuck at this boarding school on winter break, waiting for their parents to come get them. They're watched over by these nuns, and all this weird stuff starts happening, all this unexplainable things. And by the end of it, it was just really not bleak all the way per se, but it was definitely, the more I thought about it, the more I was appreciated the movie. I was like, okay, that's what they meant by this, and that's what they meant by that. And so honestly, it was one of those movies that stuck with me for a couple of days. I was laying in bed and I was like, oh, so I think that's what they meant. But this one's definitely a good one if you like actual scary films. More on the disturbing, realistic side of things.
It has a very dark undertone to it. Visually, it's kind of stark. It has a lot of good visuals and everything like that. And it has like a kind of a demonic undertone to things if you like that sort of movie. Yeah. I highly recommend it. Like you said, it actually stuck with me a couple of days after I watched it, and I would think back on a scene and be like, okay, that makes sense now. So
if you like supernatural horror films, this is a plus. And also, if you're a fan of non-linear storytelling, this one is also broken up through 3 perspectives, and it kind of jumps back and forth between all of them. And it was really nice how they did it. And there are a lot of twists in this one towards the end that were really good. Some of them were actually really surprising. So that's actually kind of hard to do today, Stories are mostly predictable. There's only so many we can tell. But this one actually did a really good job at keeping the surprises, safe until it's time. But yeah, this one is available for free on Netflix. So if you have a Netflix account, definitely check it out. Highly recommend it.
Technically, Netflix isn't free, but if you have it,
if you have Netflix, yeah, which I'm sure most people have Netflix. So yeah, definitely recommend that one. The next one on the list is a little, very indie film called After Midnight. If you're a fan of the movies Endless, Resolution, or Spring, I know those aren't really mainstream titles, but if you have watched any of them, this one is from the same people that did those movies. And we were both already huge fans of the people that did those 3. I love all 3. They're very well done, very good stories. And again, that's the Endless, Resolution, and Spring. So I was super excited to check this one out. Again, very well made. It's a more unique story. This guy, his girlfriend leaves him after 10 years. He doesn't know where she went. And ever since she's been gone, every night he's being attacked by this weird monster that we never really see for the most part. And no one really believes him, and it's really just him, setting up all these weird traps and all these weird things to try and catch it. And intercut with the scenes of him fighting the monster are flashbacks to him and his girlfriend, the time they spend together. So you get a lot of character development with that. And then, the action's kept up with this weird monster. But this one, it's a monster movie, but more so it's one of those indie films where it's like, what am I doing with my life? Where are we going? What's my purpose here? So if you're a fan of movies, I'm trying to think of movies it's similar to. My mind blank. But if you're a fan of those indie, hipster kids just trying to figure their place in the world, this is definitely a movie for you. Except it's got monsters in it, so that's always a plus. Very well acted, beautifully shot. And again, this one's super indie, so I think they made it all themselves, independently funded, but I enjoyed this one the more I thought about it.
Yeah, this was definitely a relationship movie that had a monster in it. The monster is definitely one of the high points of this movie as far as,
as part of being the story, but really this is about a guy and he's missing his girl and he's questioning his life and everything like that. So for those that's going into it looking for a creature feature, you may be a little disappointed, but if you want something, a unique take on it, and there is truly a monster in it, then you'll probably enjoy it. Give it a shot. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I probably enjoyed it more as the credits rolled than the anticipation of it up until the point of the credits rolling. I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to be a little pissed if there's not a monster and everything like that. But you'll see. Like I said, at the end, I was like, okay, I like that movie.
And the movie I was thinking of comparing it to, I just remembered it, Garden State. If you ever seen that movie from 2004, it's like that really cute relationship movie. They're just trying to figure out their place in the world. But again, it has a monster in it, so you can't go wrong with it. It pleases both worlds. This one is available for rent on Prime and on iTunes. This one's only like $2. Like I said, it's really indie, so definitely a nice little evening film to watch if you just like, rom-com with monsters. So, I figure we do one more. I figure we do 5 a week. So the last one is one that definitely surprised me. It's called Revenge. This one is a classic. I mean, like the title says, Revenge. It's a classic, one of those revenge films. Woman, battered and beaten, survives this brutal attack, comes back, and is just a total, bad A as she tracks down her assailants. So kind of in the vein of like I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left. So if you like this kind of exploitation films, this one's definitely for you. Except this one's not as exploitative, I might have pronounced that wrong, as those films were. I mean, they are kind of gratuitous and hardcore for most movie-going audiences. This one focuses more on the actual revenge than the exploitation of it. Extremely violent. Extremely
bloody.
Literally, this. I knew it was going to be violent, but I did not expect the amount. It was crazy.
They ruined some sets with blood. I'm talking blood, and more blood.
Which is funny because it takes place, part of it, in this very beautiful house. I mean, this is like a super top of the line, one of those futuristic houses, beautifully decorated. Literally by the end of it, they do these pans, and it's literally nothing but red blood from wall to ceiling. And it was surprising actually too, because I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I mean, I expected it to be just another cheap old exploitation film, not that good quality, all that, but it was beautifully shot. All the technical aspects were great. The story was good. The actors all did phenomenal in their roles. And this is surprising. This film actually features a lot of male nudity, but literally almost no female nudity, which I thought was actually, and the reason why I bring that up is a good take, because usually in these revenge films, it's always the woman that's being exploited. So, usually they spend half the film naked before they become like, this total killer. But actually, in the end, it's the man that's naked being chased by the woman. And so it's really a nice little reversal of what you'd expect. The normal, damsel in distress, running around naked from the killer. So I thought that was a really neat, interesting take on that aspect of the genre.
I really enjoyed this one. I'm one of those people, when I watch a movie, maybe I get a little too into it, and I really had to step back a minute and really suspend belief on a lot of the stuff that went on in this movie. I mean, really had to let go and suspend belief on a lot of stuff.
Part of it, it's not realistic, but sometimes it isn't realistic. You do got to suspend disbelief, but the violence makes up for it.
Oh no, it's a very good movie, but it's not one of those movies where you're like, that could really happen. I mean, I really had to suspend belief hardcore, but I really enjoyed it, and it was so bloody and fun that it really made up for everything else.
Bloody. And that's not an exaggeration. It was extremely violent.
I think it may be bloodier than the French Inside movie, and that was a very bloody movie.
Definitely. I would compare it to the level of High Tension, another French film, but honestly, it might even be a little bloodier than that.
Oh, it's much bloodier than that.
And if you've ever seen High Tension, you know that movie's very...
Yeah. It is.
Your face.
We keep saying bloody, but just wait till the end of this movie, and you'll be like, wow, they ruined some couches right there.
A lot of stuff. They ruined a whole house.
Yes.
So that's probably where most of the film's budget went, which actually had a very high budget for one of the type of film that.
Well, you can tell. I mean, it's very well shot, very well done.
And this one is, I guess, technically a foreign film. It is Australian. So, I mean, you can definitely tell from the environment, everything it's set in. So it was really a pleasant surprise. This one, again, I guess technically not free, but if you have Shudder, it is available on Shudder. And you can rent it on iTunes and, again, Prime for like $5. This one, if you're a gore hound, would definitely recommend because it checks off all the boxes. It's a fun ride from start to finish. It doesn't drag at all. I mean, literally from the start all the way to the finish. It keeps your interest. It just goes right after the other, scene after scene, and it's very gory. So again, if you like gory films like that, you'll love it. So I think that's my list for the week. I enjoyed all of them. Not really a bad egg in the bunch, which is rare. I mean, you know, when you watch movies on a whim, you take a gamble, really. I mean, some good, some bad, some really bad. But no, I was surprised this week. Most of the films we watched were really entertaining and unique and good. So it was a good week.
Very good week. I enjoyed all of these films. I highly recommend looking up all of them, especially Swallow.
Swallow's definitely the best.
If you watch any of them off of this list this week, watch Swallow. It's a very good movie.
Very good. And again, it's not that gory. It's a beautiful story, actually. So if you got a significant other that doesn't like horror films, I'm sure they'll enjoy this one. But yeah, so we'll leave a list, I guess, of 5 films. I don't have a list with me, but we'll leave the list of 5 films in the description below of movies that we're going to watch this coming week. And then we'll let you guys know in a review, and hopefully you can watch them with us. And we'll see if we agree with opinions or not.
Yeah, and be sure to leave your opinions in the comments on these movies. Because, this is just our opinions. We'd like to hear your opinions.
So please join us next time for another episode. Hope you enjoyed the reviews. Hope you enjoyed the movies. Stay safe out there.
See you later.